My name is Chaz Ogden. I'm with Snowsports Industries America, and I work with our retailer rep and resort members. Today's webinar is part of SIA's ongoing education platform, Industry Intelligence, leading into our marquee event at Outdoor Snow Show in January. Our host today is Dan Kowalke. He's the general manager of Retail Toolkit, a customer management platform made specifically for independent specialty retailers. I want to thank everyone for coming and thank Retail Toolkit for presenting today. If you'd like to see more from them, be sure to attend Industry Intelligence in Denver, where they will be presenting in 2 sessions on Tuesday, January 28th. Retail Toolkit will also be offering SIA members a member benefit that we will share with you later. For information on becoming an SIA member, to find the full Industry Intelligence event schedule, you can go to our website at snowsports.org. There will also be a Q&A at the end of this, so if you do have questions, you can enter them into the chat there, and Dan will get to those at the end of the call. So thanks again, and I will now hand things off to Dan.
Thanks, Chaz and Maggie and SIA for being a wonderful host. Hello, everyone. Retail Toolkit. It's maybe 2 words used commonly in our everyday vernacular, but put them together and you've got a pretty cool little company based out of the Midwest serving specialty outdoor retailers. Truth be told, we are data scientists at heart, and sometimes that's not so much fun to talk about. So we kind of think through the process of the customer journey a little bit further, and kind of maybe mash up a little experience economy, and we promote ourselves as a experience management platform. We're in the cloud. We leverage transactional data typically associated with point of sale at your resort or in your retail shop. And we're modern. We're real time, giving retailers the visibility that they need to be successful in a dynamic environment. I really appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit more about Retail Toolkit today, and certainly look forward to opportunities to get to know you and your businesses better right after the holidays at Outdoor Retailer. Swivel chair. It's that operational swivel chair, the term that we use that really kind of bogs us all down. The secret sauce, if you will, to Retail Toolkit as a real-time cloud-based platform is that we're providing pieces of data, and they over time are able to actually correlate. So many of the retailers that we work with across the US and Canada, their systems are fragmented. There's some manual process. Many of the smaller retailers that we work with, owner operators, not only work in the business, but they don't have a lot of time to work on the business. And so things like simple retail metrics like sales conversion are things that they don't have a really good pulse on, and they're not tracking, and they're not leveraging the efficiencies of modernized technologies and techniques to understand really what is a good day, what is a good month, what is a good year. So if you were to break it down into modules, we give very, very detailed real-time visibility via sales and budget trackers, sales conversions. We subsidize a hardware traffic counting tool that sits above the entrance, no electrician required, and overlays the sales data to produce real-time sales conversion. And as an example of how that one piece is not necessarily unique in itself, that data mashed up with weather and historical sales can actually drive predictability into things like scheduling. So you can know that you're going into a busy season on a busy day, and not anecdotally just staff who's available, but put the best sales and service people together to maximize that sale opportunity. We have started as a very, very small, almost boutique platform, addressing the two largest expense drivers and potentially revenue drivers in a retail business, that being inventory and labor. Effectively 80 cents out of every dollar that's coming through the front door is already spent in those two categories. So you've joined today to learn about inventory management, PO analysis, open to buy, and I look forward to kind of giving our views on those very, very important categories. But it's important to note that over time we have grown because we listen to our customers, and we have ultimately created automated email engines, and just recently launched a modern digital loyalty and rewards platform that is a application on your customer's device, with the goal of providing really what the consumer is expecting you to provide, and that is one-to-one personalized communication. I know we've got a good amount of retailers on, and I understand we also have some brands and suppliers on, and some reps. And again, I'm really excited to share a little bit of data about what we are seeing as trends in the industry, and also you leverage storytelling a bit here, because everything that we do, and I would encourage you all to do, no matter your role in the ecosystem, is to always think about the consumer. And so with that, I'd like you to meet Jill. Jill is 30 somethings, and she's active, and many Jills, given our industry association here. She's tech savvy, she's social, and she's open to following her favorite brands, and certainly always looking for people who understand her lifestyle and can help her achieve her goals. And so Jill, like most of us, has some affinities to certain brands, and certainly in this use case, when there's a shoe that fits really well, you kind of stick with it. And so Jill's got a run coming up, and she knows her size, and she has a favorite. And so she happens to pop into your store. She's never been to your store before, but it was close, and she was on a client visit. And so she popped in. Obviously, she knows what she wants, and she's been following you on social media for quite some time. And so this is a pretty cool thing, because you've never met Jill before. And so she's getting used to the vibe in your store. She doesn't see your size in the model that she really likes. And so the salesperson, well-trained, doing their job, unfortunately says, look, just don't have that. We're out, but we'll get that in, maybe next Tuesday, and obviously next Tuesday is after Saturday, and that's just not going to work out. And so Jill's like, well, this is a sweet spot. Maybe we'll try again in the future. And sadly, what the data shows us is many times what happens is Jill, by the time she gets to her car, obviously, we're exaggerating a bit here, but It's a couple of button pushes on the mobile, and that package will show up tomorrow. And so, that's not to say, and please, hear me to say .com is not the enemy. It's having the right thing at the right time to address your core customer. And you just and there are tools and ways to understand how to be really, really good at that. In addition, I'd go so far as to say, allowing you to invest in the things that are most profitable requires visibility. So having visibility into making sure you have most of the things that are making most of the money will allow your cash flow uh, much more smoothly. It'll accelerate velocity to turns, and it's really a winning recipe that a lot of our clients have come to enjoy. And so we'll get into a little bit more about some of that terminology and some of the algorithms and models that we use to help give that visibility to retailers. Net, in this story example, basically, you did everything right. The salesperson was available and polite and professional, and the store looked great and things were clean. And I think this is funny. Even the cashier was in a particular good mood. So it's like the stars really kind of aligned, and yet Jill left empty-handed. And so obviously in data metrics terminology, this would have reduced some sales conversion for the store metrics that day. None of it mattered because we were out of stock in a particular SKU, in a particular size, in a particular color. And obviously that this has been a challenge that we've been trying to solve for a long time. So I promised, some healthy data. And again, if you'd like a copy of this for your own internal use and to share with your teams, I'd be happy to send you this deck in an email after the presentation. So, what this is saying is it's kind of supporting Jill's story, and that is, if you don't have it, we're not going to wait. Right. We're kind of an on-demand, real-time generation, and that's not going to change. If anything, it's going to become a lot more demanding. And so really, if we don't have what the customer that has done a good amount of pre-search before they've even come to your store, the chances are really low that they're going to walk away with product, and more importantly, they're going to walk away unhappy. And that's really why we consider ourselves to be in the experience management, in an experience economy, because ultimately that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make customers happy, and the expectation is just so high. So obviously, this is a neg number, because over time, if Jill comes into your store and, quantifiably, I don't have a metric that says people are willing to come to your store 2.7 times or 12.2 times before, really never coming in again. Right. So there is potential for patterns where we'll come and we'll give you, consumers will give you a try, but if the stars don't line completely to transaction with a smile, it's really unlikely that they're going to give you a second chance. And again, it's this isn't doom and gloom. These are real numbers, but the opportunity to have better visibility into what people are looking for, really is kind of the challenge. And let's be honest, it's a challenge because we operate in a world where, many people want us to make decisions way far in advance, and to use terminology like preseason, and that's really challenging when the consumer is more on demand, right? So there's some friction there. But with using historical data, specifically with size and color trends, we can help minimize some of that. And then just and how you buy and becoming more real time in a program, in a buying planning, a planning program that maybe allows you to establish some goals, like maybe you want to do 20% year over year in apparel. Like that would be a good goal to plan for. But then how you arrive at that would be more real time, and under the premise of accelerating turns and letting the profits of the newfound cash flow be reinvested into the business. So it's just a healthier recipe, although that is, again, different than business models of the past. And so this is about 50%, it's a coin flip, but I think we can all agree that if you're not delivering some memorable experience, there's just too many options these days, no matter what business you're in. People are going to go somewhere else. And the kind of the 3 P's, I know this says price, product, offering, and convenience, but product, price, place, those things still matter. It's just that the customer expectation is so much higher. So let's get to the core. Let's talk about some tactics, specifically with regarding inventory management. So, kind of a sneak peek, the term open to buy, if you're not familiar with it, is kind of a literal term. And I like to, think of the analogy of a field goal post, if you will. So, you have too little inventory, you effectively are going to risk missing sales opportunities when you boil it all down. When you have too much inventory, your deployed effective capital is not being used effectively. And so we'll dig into those concepts a little bit more, and how our customers are finding success in our platform. This statement is, kind of encapsulating the comments I was making earlier, and that is, there's that adage where, you plan the work and work the plan. I don't think that that's an annual exercise in today's dynamic retail environment. That is an everyday exercise. And if that comment seems laughable or overwhelming, I think the notion there is you most likely don't have systems in place to give you real-time visibility, because that's what this is all about. Not relying on gut feel or the good deal, 8 to 12 months in advance of sell through. It's about giving customers what they're looking for today. And that is absolutely more real time, and therefore real time visibility allows you to react more. Customer-centric merchandising is not our term by any stretch of the imagination, but it is core to what we would deem to be, some of the most successful retailers that we see in any industry today. And, the recipe is quite simple. More profits comes from higher GMROI. Higher GMROI requires having a higher velocity on turns, And improving turns is a result of effective planning. And, again, selfishly, we leverage our open to buy algorithm. But the point is, you don't need Retail Toolkit to be successful. The point is, you need to do something to give you real-time visibility into the pulse of what's working and what's not. Minimize things that aren't profitable, and effectively put your working capital into the things that are working and that are profitable for your business. So again, I know we've got a wide variety of audience today, and this is absolutely intended to be educational. If you are an expert in your business and you already know GMROI, and that's awesome. That makes me feel great. My experience helping retailers is that this is a concept that you may be familiar with, but it's not actively deployed. And again, I'm here advocating the use of not only knowing what this is, but having it be a central compass to the profitability of your company. I just came back from what's called the running event. Maybe some of you were there. It was in Austin. The weather was fabulous, and the vibe was super, super great. And in a very open atmosphere, I did a poll. There was about 20-25 people sitting around, and we were going through this exercise. Now, as background, there was only one person out of the 25 familiar with GMROI and was kind of actively using some sort of system. I didn't really ask too many details of what kind of systems were in place, but the fact being that most of the audience, what I'm talking about and advocating, was not being actively used in their business. And so we went through this exercise, and without being dramatic, when you look at face value, and if you don't understand the importance of how to calculate GMROI and really what that does to the business, it's really hard to answer some of these questions. And so I just encourage you all to spend 5 seconds kind of making an educated guess on which of these departments is performing best. So what we have is top line, we've got gross margin, and we've got an average cost of inventory. So, and for most companies, these are standard metrics, right? You can easily pull this out of your point of sale, and this is how typically decisions are being made. So let's dig a little bit deeper. So turns out that we are turning, Department D is turning at almost a 2x or 100% more than Department A, and certainly more than Department C. And so the GMROI in that department is actually like a lot higher than what some folks may have guessed Department A, because their top line and their gross margin was higher. Turns out that department is actually not the breadwinner in this example, in this company. And the reason for that is how the profit from the velocity of turns is able to positively make additional money for the company. The company's making money. The profits are going back in to buy more, and there's a multiplier effect. And that is a really, really a central theme to what we're advocating here. So again, while Department D had lower sales and lower margin, because the turns were higher, it was the highest performing department. And so again, I think most people are comfortable looking at metrics, but what metrics are meaningful? And so, again, today with the topic being inventory, we feel that tracking GMROI is definitely a central metric to additional profits and via long-term viability. So we've kind of talked about a little bit about GMROI, and because we have a broad-based audience, I also want to talk about make sure we're aligned on the definition of a turn, and that is I say velocity. It's the measurement of replacement effectively in a given annualized view. So 2 times a year, 3 times a year, 4 times a year, you're having to replace that product. Across customers, and so even though we specialize in specialty outdoor, our DNA is in the bike industry. We do service and support a broad base of specialty retailers. I think we don't publish this statistic, but the last time I looked, our average client turn was certainly north of 4. And that's a pretty healthy number. So, again, one of the takeaways from our time today is if you don't know what your turn is, I would highly encourage you to dig into your data, into your reports, leverage your consultants, and try to perform an analysis and make sure that it's okay if you're not doing this today, but certainly these are the things that you want to be doing in the future, because quite frankly, your competitors are tracking them, whether they're digitally native or down the street. These are the metrics that the most profitable retailers rely on to making business decisions. So then again, here is the calculation. In this example, we've got $50,000 cost and resulting in a turn of 2 annually. So again, I'm gonna move through a little bit of this, but I'm certainly happy to share these examples if you send me a note after our time together. Again, here's just an example of how we would advocate you to analyze your business effectively, and how revenue from those new turns effectively becomes the cash flow to fuel future turns and ultimately new revenue for your business. So let's get to open to buy. Open to buy, again, from our point of view, is kind of a literal term. I think of a field goal post. I'm actually making a field goal post with my hand. You can't see it, but you've got the area that's kind of to the left or under this magic number or this magic range, and you risk losing sales. And then there's a number that is to the right or above the magic range that could result into ineffective deployed capital. And so again, this is an educational conversation. I would certainly highly encourage all of you, if you're not, to explore using these types of systems to give you the real-time visibility that's required. And I would also then challenge you to make sure that you're looking at kind of the most granular data possible. And by that, I mean, if you kind of stay at the category level, like shoes, well, the devil's in the details, and you may say, well, I kind of have the right amount of, I'm carrying the right amount of inventory. If you're able to dig down and bifurcate between sex and brand and size and color, that's a couple of layers deep. You're going to find anomalies, and you're going to find that, well, in our case, in our story, you're gonna find that you're out of sevens in a certain colorway, and because you sold a lot of them last year, that's a pretty good indicator that's going to be a challenge for the business. So here's my visual: underbought, overbought. Those are the two no-nos. And again, you deal with this every day. We want to be in that good, safe range, but the devil again is in the detail of being able to dig into the data below the height, below the category level, to understand that you are dialed in the key areas to maximize profitability. So another exercise here. We've got a, we'll say that this is we're at the secondary category, right? We're in either athleisure, or we're into bottoms. Okay, we've got a certain brand's leggings here, and we're in range. Dig a little bit deeper, the story's a little bit different. And so dig a little bit deeper. Again, we now have visibility to be more dialed, to make sure that when Jill comes in and John comes in, that we have the best visibility possible to maximize that sales opportunity. Because ultimately, and this is kind of where, the knife goes into the side, and I'm not trying to twist it because you live it every day, but all of that marketing effort and spend, in our use case, right? Getting Jill through your door, like that's what you paid all the money for. And for Jill to leave without buying something, which she gladly would have paid, it wasn't even a matter of price. That was all for naught, because we weren't aligned at the at the kind of the size layer. And so something like this produces real-time visibility, and magnify the problem by 2 if you have 2 stores, or 7 if you have 7 stores, or 70 if you have 70 stores. Visibility, real-time visibility like this down to the SKU level, allows you to be very, very smart with not just buying more to fill holes, but transferring in and out to making sure that store A is optimized because they're heavy in a certain category, but store C might be light. And real-time visibility platforms like Retail Toolkit solve that problem. And that's a little bit of like balancing what kind of I just mentioned. And for the sake of time, I'm going to move past that. So to recap here, what we're advocating is to monitor and have a system that allows you to have real-time visibility in your turns and inventory planning via open to buy. So in closing, we'll go back. Remember Jill? Turns out she's got another event coming up, which is awesome. She's a go-getter. She is setting goals this year. So she needs some leggings, and she went back to your store because she still followed you on social media. And, because you leveraged real-time insights, you were able to make sure that this time you had her size. And it's not because you don't normally carry her size, but this is a really popular time of year. So you needed to have extra stock on hand So leveraging historical data told you that these next 2 weeks, you're going to be considerably under where you need to be. And so the system had given you enough warning to making sure that you had the stock ready. So when Jill came in and gave you a second chance, she was able to transact. And that's what it's all about. Meeting expectations. Meeting expectations is the recipe to delivering great experience. And so I'll kind of go back to where I started. Retail Toolkit's in the business of data analytics, but we're leveraging data in a way that allows you, the retailer, to deliver best-in-class experience. We've got a few more statistics, and then we're going to move to Q&A. So if you haven't already, please feel free to leverage the button on your screen. And my marketing lead, Jason, is looking at those, and we will address your questions here in a minute. So just a kind of a friendly Q&A heads up. So a stat that I think is kind of interesting, only because it kind of talks about manual process. And I'll be honest with you, there's nothing wrong with this statistic. If you are using manual process, that's awesome, because you have a process. There's kind of a logical progression sometimes with regards to software. Rarely do people go from nothing to something very, very, very complicated, right? There's these steps or stages. So I guess I would encourage you, if you are doing these calculations in a manual way, which is most likely reactive, not proactively. Let us give you a demo of the software and see if we can't save you some time and headache. And if you're not doing these things manually, start. And we've got some best practices and tips and tricks on our blog on how you can start today. So if you are in the market to shop for inventory management solutions, again, it doesn't matter if you are a resort, if you are a brand and you've got pop-ups and flagships and experience labs, we're all kind of trying to have that one-to-one relationship with the customer. So I'm hopeful the content today resonated with you, no matter your role in the ecosystem. But there's a couple of things based on our involvement with best-in-class retailers that are really kind of this complete checklist. These are the things that you want to make sure that you have in place to be the most competitive, and ultimately putting you in the best position to deliver a best-in-class experience to Jill. Real time is key. GMROI in turns is key. Open to buy is key. And non-manually crunching data is key. So one more quick selfish plug. We have what's called the Smart Store initiative that we launched a few months ago and has been very, very widely accepted, and we're super happy and have very big plans for this in 2020. But what is Smart Store? Smart Store is like, I guess it's the rebuttal to the dumb store, right? So if you're not familiar with the terminology, if you're not using technology to your greatest advantage, what we wanted to do is put together a safe place, a central repository for you to go and educate you on the steps that you can take to become a best-in-class retailer. With that, I am going to catch my breath. Thank you again for the opportunity to share some of this industry insight with you, and certainly look forward to addressing some Q&A here. And if there is something that you want to address specific about your business, certainly use my contact and we'll schedule time together. Or I really look forward to being able to connect faces at Outdoor Retailer after the holidays. Stop by our tracks and say hi afterwards. I hope you all have a wonderful holidays. And with that, Jason, do we have any Q&A to address?
We don't yet. I'm waiting on a couple questions. A couple of people have raised their hand that they'd like to ask a question, so I'm waiting for those to come in. But Dan, thank you for covering all that. It's a lot of information. It's a very complicated subject, but it's one of the things we're passionate about is helping independent retailers increase profitability in multiple ways, especially with inventory planning. So yeah, we're just waiting on maybe a couple of questions to come in. Otherwise, yeah, we are giving 2 talks at Outdoor Retailer Snow Show as part of the I&I series that SIA is hosting, and those are on our events page on our website. If you'd like to visit retailtoolkit.com/events, you can see information about those talks in addition to other shows we'll be speaking at or appearing at. And for now, I don't see any questions coming in. And we are recording the webinar, so if if things maybe moved a little bit too quickly, then we will be sending out a link to that recording this week, and you'll be able to revisit and replay portions of the webinar. Or maybe if you had to leave early or came in late, you'll be able to rewatch the entire thing. Obviously, we'd love to answer questions offline. So if you have any of those, feel free to email hello@retailtoolkit.com, and we will be more than happy to answer any questions you have. One question that is coming in, we asked about point of sale systems upon registration. Dan, can you talk about how our application integrates with point of sale?
Yeah, that's a great question. I did briefly touch on, so what Retail Toolkit does is effectively we sit on top of the transaction layer, and that's a real fancy way of saying we integrate with a handful of popular modernized point of sale systems that we have found to be most common in specialty outdoor. The two of the more mainstream systems that we have found in the marketplace today are Lightspeed HQ and Ascend RMS. We do have integrations built and are building integrations with other partners at this time. But if you are a Lightspeed or Ascend customer, we have no shortage of case study and testimonial that we can share with you. In addition to, I think it sometimes we get questions on pricing, and we earn our customers' business every month, and by that I mean we're a non-contract software as a subscription service. So we are constantly reinvesting into the platform and making our clients happy. If we don't make them happy, we risk them leaving, and that's not our business model. So I'm happy to report that we have a very, very high retention rate, a very, very effective low churn rate. But the fact of the matter is we are dependent on the transactional data for our automated marketing engine and for our open to buy module. Some of the other modules are not so point of sales dependent, but certainly we're unlocking value across multiple pieces of the business. And so what's important to us also is we understand where the market demand is. So without naming point of sale company names broadly, we're capturing those data points to help build the use case for where we build and partner next, if that makes sense. And then also we do have a professional services arm of the business. So if you are, as an example, a large resort and you might have a mixed bag of systems, we'll certainly, our engineers will take a look at that and see what custom requirements your business would require and provide a solution to that. So out of the box, Lightspeed and Ascend today, working on a handful more, and then certainly custom integrations on a quote basis.
Sounds great. Dan, we are getting a question about sharing data. Can you talk about the, maybe in broad terms, the benchmarking offerings that we have, maybe not specifically, but just what that benchmarking program might look like?
Sure. So what we are doing in other industries, I should just say adjacent industries, running, biking as an example, we power a benchmarking tool at an association level. And this is something that is something that we will pursue with SIA also, effectively allowing the retailers to benchmark themselves across the population or their peer base. So in a fully anonymized scenario, you effectively are able to compare your turns against your peers' terms. You can break that down via geography or it's really up to the industry association that's providing that as a member benefit. But certainly we feel well positioned to continue to be, a platform that powers those types of data insights. So effectively, if you were a Retail Toolkit customer leveraging our platform for your retail needs, and you also were a member of a benchmarking tool that Retail Toolkit powered, that would all be in the same UI. So it kind of all goes back to that reducing operational swivel chair. We want to add the most value by reducing the number of places you go to get answers to effectively run your business right.
Yeah, and I know that the stores that have chosen to participate in those benchmarking programs have gotten a lot of value out of it. Dan, thank you. I think that's going to be the last question we'll take, and we really appreciate everyone attending. Again, like I said, a link to the recording of this will go out in the next day or two, and SIA will also be featuring the recording as well, and we'll be sure to reach out with that link as soon as possible. But for now, we thank everyone for attending, and be sure to keep an eye out for the announcement about the member benefit to SIA members. And if you'd like more information about that, you can check snowsports.org or also retailtoolkit.com/SIA. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.